Sally Sanchez-Terrell, and I come to you from anywhere around the world. And that's the great thing about being online. It's absolutely free. You can get a certificate by going to the American TESOL site, and you can also get a recording, and you can show these certificates of attendance to your directors and hopefully get some PD credit for it. So it's pretty exciting. We've done over 100, and we're super excited to announce. We didn't even realize it, but we got nominated for an EduBlog Award, and it wasn't until yesterday that I found out we won 5th place. So that's really exciting because we didn't even know, and we didn't even announce it. So to have hundreds of you nominate us and then vote for us without even saying anything is really phenomenal. Because usually people tend to canvas votes or something, but we didn't even know, so it's great. Thank you. And congratulations, Jerry, because didn't you win number 5 for tweeting or something? Which you totally deserve. So that's fantastic. So we're going to talk about virtual trip resources and lesson ideas. Now you might wonder, well, what's a virtual trip? Well, a virtual trip embodies many different things. So basically what it means is that you travel somewhere online, the students do, and it can be anywhere from a real young learners, very young learners, such as even 4 or 5 years old, because I've worked with that age group, and I've taken them on virtual field trips, all the way to adults, 80-year-olds. So you can do different types of lesson plans with this, and it's really fantastic. There's actually a lot of reasons why virtual field trips are really fantastic. One of the reasons why is because we teach so much language. There's so much they have to read in every single subject, in science and math and history. When we bring them article, and there a lot of times for students, especially language learners, it's really difficult for them to process this. It's just so much wording for the brain. When you read a long assignment, or you read, for example, a research paper yourself, you may get the feeling that you have a headache or something, and it's because cognitively the brain doesn't work that way. That's not the way we pick up information, and that's not a good way for us to learn language itself as well. So one of the things we can do is we can take our students, it doesn't matter which age, on a virtual trip, and we can begin to get them to have the experience of what it is that they're looking at in a textbook. The idea is when you take them on a virtual field trip, so you can visit a website, for example, and what you're doing is you're taking them traveling. They're going to that location. So for example, if you're reading something in Brazil, then this is the place. Actually, I took this picture in Brazil when I was in Brazil. And so you can take them to that place. Now, maybe we can't always afford to actually take these students there. It would be great to do something like Skype or something like that, but we can take them, if we have an internet connection, we can take them there through the internet. And a lot of times they will see it in 3D and HD, and you want to make it a multimedia experience. In other words, when they are on a virtual field trip, when you say virtual field trip, what it means is that you have to think of it as when you take a trip and you travel. So when you travel and you take a trip, what are some of the things that you do? You explore the place. You get to look at articles from there. You get to visit museums. You get to interact with the culture. So you want to make it an interactive, immersive kind of trip. So it's not just them seeing maps. It's them going to actual places and visiting. They may do a game. They may listen to somebody there on a video. They may watch a video. So you want to make it as authentic as possible, as much as them experiencing it if they were really there. There are some great websites that will have lesson plans for every age group, hundreds of websites of anything you want to teach as a virtual field trip. Now, I know that for my adult students, a lot of times I would use virtual field trips to show them things like, for example, we did 360 degrees of Paris, and it was really phenomenal because I was able to go into Paris, and then it looks like you're on the Eiffel Tower. But there are different things that you can do when they went traveling and they had to do itineraries. So there are things that they also have to do. They used to have to plan trips. So there's things that they do, but there are also things that that they see and experience as well. Now, a lot of these virtual field trips will be based off of Google Earth. Google Earth is free. You can download it to your desktop and you can use it offline. So even if you have a few computers in the classroom or something and you don't have an internet connection, when you do have an internet connection, you can download this and then you can use Google Earth, and it puts things in 3D. So there are a lot of different sites now that use Google Earth to be able to have very specific places to visit, and they've done some really great things with it. So Google Earth is something you definitely want to explore and have. And the great thing about Google Earth is that they have a lot of things based off of education. But it's something like if you do Google Maps, if you've ever done Google Maps, and like me, I do the navigation on my app a lot. But I'm always doing it on my phone. And when I do it actually shows me like I'm there. Like when I'm there, it's like I'm immersed there. Like it gives me a 3D version of a house or something, or a business that I'm looking for. So why virtual field trips? Well, not only does it bring things to life, students can learn about different cultures. So a lot of times they can see videos of what people growing up look like then, and it can be from the past. They can see like, so maybe in Japan, let's say that you're teaching them about the Hopi festival. And the Hopi festival is in India. And it's this big color festival and it's really cool. And you want them to learn about it. Well, they can read about it in the book and they can see pictures, or they can go on Google Earth during a particular time, or they can take one of these sites and they can actually be like in the middle. It transplants them in the middle of the Hopi Fest and they can see the colors around them, and they get to learn about different cultures and their celebrations. It's like they're an observer, like a lurker in a way. So they learn about different cultures. They can study the history of a place. So a lot of times you can take a virtual field trip somewhere. Like let's say you're trying to teach them about Jack the Ripper or something. You can actually take them to the streets of London and things, and it'll show what the buildings look like back then. I've seen entire cities, like there was one for California. Yeah, and Ola, that's a great idea. Ola was saying, did you try Second Life? Second Life is definitely a great way to do a virtual tour and a virtual trip. You can see Rome or Venice the way it is now, or you can go visit it in the past. They have an excellent Macbeth exhibit that you can go in and you can interact with the characters and the characters talk to you and you see ghosts, and it's really fantastic. So that's a really good option as well. I didn't put that in, which is ridiculous. I should have put that one in because Second Life is definitely fantastic. But you can study the history. You can actually see, you can go with your phone in some of the apps I'll show you, and you can put it on the location, and then it'll show you past pictures of what this looked like. It's like augmented reality. And so it'll show you, like Wiki Wonders or something, what it was like in the past. So you can see this in the past. Like if you go visit the Egyptian towers, or you go to Athens, and you can see what it looked like in the past. It'll give you reconstruction and everything like that. So it's really fantastic. Visualize readings. It doesn't matter if it's an article. It doesn't matter if it's a novel. A lot of times your students will have a difficult time being interested in the readings, a lot of times because it doesn't relate. But if they look at it, if they can see where it took place, they can see the characters, they can see what the characters dress like and stuff, then all of a sudden they're able to really understand the wording. It's like a picture paints a thousand words, they say. And the same thing for the readings. A lot of times they can make that connection if they're in a field trip. It diversifies instruction. So a lot of times we have audio students that learn audibly. They learn by listening, and then we have others that learn by seeing visual, and then we have others that also learn by taking notes and things like that. So you can diversify the instruction. It's really easy. Like if you have mixed languages, if you have language learners mixed with very advanced language learners, then it's a way for them to each go and they can experience what the subject matter is and take it to their own understanding. And it's a great way. A lot of times field trips now are being cut out of the budget with school budgets. They're decreasing, and now you can't take trips anymore. So this is a great way to get students, like once a week, maybe Fridays, or the beginning of the week. You can make Mondays more exciting by saying, hey, we're going to take a trip today. and that's when we're going to take our field trips. And the students will really enjoy it. It doesn't feel so much like a lesson. It feels like an experience. So let's go ahead and go into engaging them in the reading. So let's say you're going to teach an article, or let's say you're going to teach a novel. When you're doing that, you can engage them in it. It chunks the language. It breaks it into small portions. And then it has visuals and games, letters, and videos that support it, because remember, your virtual trip is very interactive. The other thing it does is it contextualizes the language. The students, if you go to Second Life, for example, like Ola was saying, when you're in Venice, all of a sudden you can talk, and the language that you use is there in that particular setting. If you go visit the Macbeth virtual field trip, then you see Shakespeare, and it's in a different setting. You can understand it better. You see the characters interacting and fighting, and it's easier for them to understand because it's in a context, it's in a setting, and they can see where that language is actually spoken. In a book, they really can't get that. They really have to think and imagine. But when they're immersed in it, then it really helps them contextualize the language. And it helps them experience it, the setting, the history, the location, etc. Your students are reading Jane Eyre, for example. Well, how are they going to understand if that's not their present day situation? If they don't know what the style is, they don't know what the fashion is, they don't know how they used to speak, they don't know what the customs were. But if you can transport them and they can experience it, then they'll really be able to they'll understand it. It's like putting them in the other shoes of the character. There's a website for that that's really fantastic. It has different types. You can see at the top is the googleittrips.org. That is based on Google Earth. It has K through 5, so that means that it's young learners. So you can go all the way to 12 years. You can go all the way from about 5 years old all the way to higher ed is college age, so to the 20s. And these would be great for adult students just as well, so you can even go beyond that. These are lesson plans. They actually have fantastic files. You download them to the computer, and what they do is they mark the journeys of characters from famous literature like Jane Eyre, like Frankenstein, different things like that. The Hobbit. The Hobbit is something really popular right now, so you can actually go through and you can go through the journey, which is really fantastic, because if you look at Tolkien, he actually creates a map and all these things, but it's hard to understand that if you can't be taken there. You can see right here they have a very famous French novelist right now, Voltaire. So it'll take you through Voltaire's novels and things like that. What does it do? Okay, so each place mark that the kids or the students that your learners click on, it pops up with the window. It's like a 3D. And it has different things. It'll say a talking point, so you can get your students at that point to talk about what happened at that particular scene. You can get them to role play. You can get them to work in pairs, and they can role play, they can have a discussion, they can have a debate, whether they agree or disagree with the character. There are so many different types of activities that they do at each of these points. It gives them links to find out more information. It gives them real world references. So what it does is they'll say, now at this particular setting, there's a church, or right now, and it tells you, so it shows you both sides. It shows you what it was back then when the character was experiencing it and what it is now. And then it gives multimedia. Sometimes it'll pop up with a video and you'll see a person, like a Native American, for example, or someone from the past who comes out and tells you what their experience is. And it gives it in like an old time video, so they can hear from primary resources as well. Sometimes they'll have speeches, sometimes they'll have audio, sometimes they'll have stories, sometimes they'll have them in costumes, sometimes they'll have pictures, sometimes they'll have games they can play. So there are many different things they can do with that. It also helps, you can make suggestions. So if you don't find a particular book that you're reading on here, you can actually go and you can type in a suggestion. They ask for that. They say, please let us know books that you're trying to teach. It helps you you can have the students create it as well. So you can actually go on Google It Trips. You can register, and what you can do is you can actually go and you can create your own virtual field trip if you want the students to do that as well. Here are some, they update it regularly. These are some of the books that they have, just so you know. There's hundreds of them. But these are some of the ones you can, and of course they have one for the Diary of Anne Frank. So that one is with the annex. They have one, Kite Runner is one of the new novels that is being taught a lot throughout the world. They have things like Steinbeck. They definitely have Twain. They have different types of Google Lit trips here, and they show you. They also give you tutorials here. They give you like a 5-minute tutorial of how to use it, how to set up your own Google Lit trips, how to use pop-up windows, how to add images, all kinds of great stuff. Yeah, it's really fantastic, Jerry. It's just a fantastic site. Like Jerry says, it's a great site. Okay, another way you can have them use it is they can use virtual trips to help them experience history. So they can visualize the fashion, the conditions, the technology, the music. One of the things I like to do is I like to have my students travel to the place and then go on something like Grooveshark or Spotify and create a music playlist. What they do is they come out with the music that might have been playing the 1920s, and maybe we come out with 1920s music and they search that. The technology, because a lot of our kids, they grew up with digital devices, so it's a good way to be like, well, imagine this character, and she didn't have a cell phone. She didn't even have like, something like that. They didn't have the internet. How was Bronte able to talk to, or Jane Eyre able to talk to her beau, how they courted each other, how they romanced each other, and they didn't get to text message each other. And then some of the things I like them to do is to modernize it, well, what they do now, so they can kind of tie into it. So another way they can do this is, of course, oh, this one isn't Google Lit Trips. I don't know why I have this as Google Lit Trips. This actually in another site. I'll have to get that on the Pearl Trees. But the great thing about this site, this is a different site. But at this particular type, you get virtual trips on Google Earth. You get maps. And then you get models sketched on the Google. So this one's a particularly good site for going on virtual field trips, but learning about more like history instead of just learning about the actual field trip. So what I'm about learning about literature. So this one, if you're teaching history, is a really good website because it has different artifacts and things like that. Let me go ahead and try to find out the name of this particular one, because it's a really good one. Okay, so this is what it is. This one's House Divided Dickinson EDU. So let me go ahead and put that in the chat box. Here we go, much better. Oh, that's a great idea. Okay, so Jerry asked, do you have them look for certain things before you actually take the field trip? And he suggests to prepare a video viewing sheet before showing the students a video. I think that's that's a that would be like the pre-writing, pre-listening, pre-whatever activities before actually being on the field trip. And that's definitely something you want to do, is you want to do things leading up to it. A KWL chart, a concept map, a scavenger hunt. These are the things you're going to look for. Do you, maybe give them a scavenger sheet ahead of time, and then have them talk into pairs. Well, do you understand what this is? Do you understand what an artifact is? Or do you understand what a petticoat is? Or something like that. They can talk about the different things they're going to have to find from the scavenger hunt. So yes, definitely you want to do those pre-tasks to get them prepared exactly, to get them focused on what you want them to experience and understand as well. So great idea, Jerry. The great thing about this housedividedDickinson.com that's here, not the Google Lit Trips, it says that, but it's not that, is that they actually have models. So they'll show you what a house used to look like back then, or what a building used to look like back then. And they do this with either Google SketchUp, they have videos that are on there. The kids can actually design models themselves with Google SketchUp. So if you're teaching math or something like that as well, then you can have them actually do design and angles and things like that. Scholastic.com, now I've said this one before, Scholastic does a lot of books, so you may be teaching from a Scholastic book, but even if you're not, Scholastic.com has amazing virtual field trips. One of the reasons why is that you can actually go on journeys and voyages. It has games that the kids can go on, and while they're going on these games, like for example, one of them I showed was for Thanksgiving, but it's basically saying about the Plymouth voyage and the Mayflower. But the kids, they actually go on a boat, and it shows them on this big boat when they're on the website. And then it stops. It stops. You see them on a map. There's a boat on the map. And then it stops at a location. At that location, it will have different types of artifacts it comes out with. One of them is they'll have videos just like this. And these videos are authentic videos. So they're really short. They're about 16 minutes to 30 minutes. I like to separate in pairs, and each pair will have a different video or a different artifact to look at. So you can do it that way. I think it's good when they have pair work, and then they can do discussions with that. They can create their own videos in lieu of this. They can say, they can report back to the class what they learned from their particular video, and they can all synthesize together. They can come together and they all put the information. The other thing, see, this is what it looks like, and it gives you a timeline, what days it took them, and this is what it takes them on the journey. It takes them through the different ship. But not only that, it'll come up with a video and it'll show them actually like what real people on the ship and them cleaning and all the duties that they had to do. And the other thing it does is it actually stops by places and it shows them primary resources. Here you have a Pilgrim girl, and it also has a Native American boy, and you hear them speaking. You hear these children speaking, and they have letters. They actually have letters that they're reading off of that they wrote back then. So these are authentic materials you can have them see and read and experience. They can try to put themselves in the shoes of those learners. And the other great thing Scholastic.com does is it just does all these different multimedia things, but it's the kind that students really like, even teenagers. For example, they have this online scrapbook of Patient Whipple, which is like somebody who was on the Mayflower. And it's just really fantastic because it has like, this is what your students do now. They do Glogster, they do online movie, online posters, online multimedia posters where they document their lives. They're on Facebook and they like these Facebook apps that show pictures of themselves, that have status updates, that have their writings, little chunks of writing. That's what basically Scholastic has done. It takes the students that were in that particular time period, and it makes all their authentic pictures and writings and even their audio, all of that, they put it on an online scrapbook. It has tabs, and it's just really kind of an exciting type of artifact that your students will really love, and it really gets them to identify with the characters. So they are invested in the reading, they're motivated. And Jerry's right, that's one thing that you can do. Okay, Ola, that's a great question. She says, do you give such classes in computer labs? It actually depends. You can do it in a computer lab, that's where I've seen it, but I usually break the students into pairs or groups, and then I give them the websites, and they each have different tasks to do within that particular website. So it depends what kind of like different materials you have. Like a lot of times I'll bring in like several different devices, and then they can access it on both the devices, so that way they're able to really explore it. You can have students create their own virtual trips, and that's what I think is a really good idea, and there's a reason for that. But first you have to teach them digital literacy, but this is basically where you switch it around. So before there's pre-task ideas that Jerry was talking about, when they go on a virtual trip, when you have a site that already takes them, like Google Lips or on the Dickinson site, it already takes them. These are already written out. You don't have to do any legwork. Basically, these are lessons, interactive lessons, immersive lessons for you. But there are sites where they can actually make their own field trips, and I'll show you those. But this way, what you do is you first have them do the research. So you give them the topic, you give them hands-on project-based lesson, okay? And you say, okay, we're going to learn about Paris in the 1920s, okay? You'll take this section in Paris, the Louvre. You'll take this section, the Eiffel Tower. You'll take this section, war or something. So you give them all in their small groups, different sections, and so then after they do that, they have to do the research. So after they do the online research, then they create the virtual field trip for others with the information. So they're getting the research and then they're putting it into visual materials. So it's a great thinking task. It takes higher thinking skills. It gets them to summarize, analyze, categorize, and classify information, and then put it in very succinct ways, because to transform all that research that they're going to be reading, they have to translate it into something visual and multimedia. You can use a website like myhisto.com. MyHisto is really great because it has everything a great virtual field trip has. It has maps, it has a timeline, it has audio, you can upload pictures, so it's really fantastic. Video. So students will create the virtual tour and they can put pictures, a map, the timeline, the audio, different artifacts within that. They can even search online. A lot of times they'll have black and white Creative Commons pictures that you can use to upload as well. There's a free app for iDevices as well. So they can make this on an iDevice. So when I usually have try to find websites that are also on, so when they can use their phones or their laptops. A lot of students will bring in their own. I allow them to bring their own computers. You have the students also. You can, in this particular setting, if you have language learners, a tip is to have them peer edit their work. So before they make the audio recording, before they put the map, for example, and they're explaining what the information is in that map or the picture or the whatever story they're doing, you can have them view others, because there are others on the site, but also you have them peer edit the work. They write out the audio script and then they practice with each other, and then they can correct their pronunciation. They can also correct their grammar, and it helps them with the language support that way too. You can also support learning from a global project with virtual field trips. Jerry said something about Skyping during a tour there, and that's definitely something you can have with a virtual trip. Is Skyping someone that's actually located there. So if you're studying, for example, I keep using Paris, but let's say that you're studying Israel or something, in the history of that or what's happening right now, then you can actually Skype someone like Leo or Leo's students, and if it was students from the UK or America or something like that, and they get like a first-hand perspective of what is happening or what's going on, or maybe if they're visiting a historical site. So, but there are sites meant for that. So Skype is a great way to get them involved as well with the with the virtual tour. But there are other ways too. One of them is the Google World Wonders project. It's a fantastic project. It's made for it gives you a 360 view. You're basically there. You want to visit the Sistine Chapel, you can visit the Sistine Chapel. You can try it yourself. It's really cool. It puts you right there, and all around you, you see on your computer Sistine Chapel. So it's quite amazing. You can go to any site of the historic sites around the world. You can really learn about different cultures. But it also has a little thing up here when you click on it called Education. And when you click on that, it's going to give you a guide for young learners. This is going to be from 6 years old all the way until about 12 years old. And over here you have secondary, so 12 years old all the way to about 20 here. And it gives you a lot of great lesson ideas. It gives you lesson plans. One of the ones for the young learners that I liked, and I even think it's great for teenagers, is they tell you to create a World Wonders board game and have them do competition and things like that as well. So I think it's fantastic. It's just a fantastic site. It gives you all this information, and it tells you how to teach with these different, with the World Wonders, if you don't already have 1,000 ideas like I do. Another great place is airpanel.com, and airpanel is actually a way to visit different types of things that you may not be able to see. Like, for example, here they have Cambodia, and it's a great way to teach about nature or specimens. Let's say that you're teaching about animals. Well, take them if you're teaching about South American animals, you can use airplanner.com. It immerses them, and instead of them just seeing like a sloth or a lemur, or the other day I discovered a red panda, they can actually go into the rainforest, and it's the real rainforest. It's just 360 degrees. They're traveling there virtually, and they can see it. They can observe it. They can just write down. You can have them do something really simple, like you can have young learners and you say, okay, go visit a sloth here. And then you have them go to the location and they write down what they observe. They just watch it with their eyes, and they just write down and observe, oh, he was eating food. What was he eating? He was eating, I don't know, he was hanging upside down, the sloth, with his tail. And then he went and he just slept for 3 hours. So it's really great. They can pretend that you can say, ooh, you're hunters, and you're watching, you're on an excavation, and you're observing these animals for National Geographic or something. So there are so many different things you can do with this. They can observe tribes, they can observe people, and then they write down what they observe. There's an app called HistoryPen App, and it's really great too. What you do is, this is totally on your mobile device, your iDevices, and you just take your camera, phone, or your iPad, and you project it anywhere in the world, and then you see all these pictures in black and white that people took a long time ago, or in sepia and things like that. Real photographs of what it looked like 20 years ago, 30 years ago. You can type in the date, you can type in the location. So it's a great way to teach them about history. And you can find thousands and thousands of places to go on virtual tours, either if you're teaching about travel, a travel lesson plan, if you're teaching, for example, a setting for an article reading. Maybe you want them to observe a historic site. Maybe you want them to observe some kind of nature. Maybe you're doing a class collaboration project with someone across the world, and you just want them to learn more about the culture and to travel there virtually, so that way they can understand the place, the location, and the culture and traditions of the students they're Skyping with. So it doesn't matter what it is. You can find all of these in the Pearl Tree. I've bookmarked a lot of resources there, including something called 100 different virtual field trips that you don't want to miss. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll put this inside the link again in case you missed it for the virtual field trips. But